When I'm driving on these Indiana roads, I'm always so amazed at how smooth and nice they are. These backcountry roads with soybean fields, woods here and there. Sometimes I'm driving on roads that feel like a tunnel through cornfields. But one reason that roads are so amazing to me is because growing up in northwest Arkansas in the Boston mountain range of the Ozarks, there were a lot of times we drove on dirt roads, not even gravel roads. In fact, the road I grew up on was a dirt road. And when we would go to other places farther into the mountains, many times the roads just kind of crawled up over the boulders, the big rocks in the middle of the road, or the road would just kind of go around, and you had to make sure that you didn't hang up the middle of the car on a boulder. In fact, I remember when I was just a toddler, after my older brothers and sisters went to school, I was in the car with Mother and Daddy, and the car was, I think they called it the old 1962 Chevy. It sat really low to the ground, and we drove and we drove. Mother and Daddy were trying to find a place to move to, and they were looking for property to buy so they could build a house or a house to rent. And we went deep into those hills, the National Forest, up toward White Rock Mountain and Shores Lake. And I remember being so scared as Daddy would shift the gears down to get the car to go over the big rocks in the road, and the trees grew across the dirt path and just made a tunnel with a canopy of branches. And I remember I sat in the middle of the front seat. It was a bench seat. You know, we didn't have seat belts or car seats back then. And there I sat. And I remember being so scared and holding Mother's hand. I was around 3 or 4, and I remember looking at Mother, and we were so far back into the mountains, and it just felt dark and creepy, even though the sun was shining. But we were just winding around in the middle of nowhere on those roads. And I looked at Mother and I said, "Does Daddy know the way home from here?" And she looked down at me, and with her reassuring voice and the soft pat, the soft touch of the palm of her hand on my leg, she said, "Rachel, Daddy always knows the way home." And that brought me so much comfort. I didn't worry about it anymore. If you live by faith and you feel and know that God is your heavenly Father, you have to trust that He always knows the way home. And these Indiana roads aren't anything like I grew up. They're smooth and they're straight. You can easily get to where you need to go unless they're covered with snowdrifts. But I trust that Daddy always knows the way home.